Thank you for hanging in there with me, you guys. This is the last chapter that you'll be reading today. I know you've had quite a bit of listening and reading and writing. I promise you, let's just push through this week. Next week will be a lot lighter. And if you work hard also next week, you won't have homework for Thanksgiving break. So it really just continue to have a positive attitude, you guys. I appreciate your time, and I promise you I am only having us focus on the parts that are going to help us answer our driving question. So last but not least, the children stop playing that Boo Radley game because they do get caught. And because of that, Jem and Dill get very close and stop playing with Scout. So Scout tends to find herself talking to Miss Maudie. This is where you see kind of a separation of females and males as you get older. Especially when you're a kid getting older, you tend to kind of go with your group. And that's kind of what's happening. Scout then finds Jem and Dill planning to deliver a note to Boo Radley, asking him to come outside, and she ends up getting caught up in their plan. And as they go and try to deliver this note, Atticus intervenes and finds Jem doing this. So we're going to read a little bit about this in this chapter. Once again, please follow along in your books. Only read the pink part. We're going to read the blue part together. Dill was in hearty agreement with this plan of action. Dill was becoming something of a trial anyway, following Jem about. And the plan they're referring to, you guys, is not playing the Boo Radley game. We're actually continuing to play it, but Jem was saying to Scout that he could totally change the character names and that be that, but they decided to not play the Boo Radley game. He asked me earlier in the summer to marry him. Then he promptly forgot about it. He staked me out, marked as his property, said I was the only girl he would ever love. Then he neglected me, and this is all from Scout's point of view. I beat him up twice, but it did no good. He only grew closer to Jem. They spent days together in the treehouse plotting and planning, calling me only when they needed a third party, but I kept aloof from their more foolhardy schemes for a while, and on pain of being called a girl. I spent most of the remaining twilights that summer sitting with Miss Maudie Atkinson on her front porch. This is a fun, playful example of pretty much childhood love. Dill obviously isn't going to actually marry Scout. Just picture yourself when you were 10, 8, even 7, when you would say you would marry somebody. You know that isn't actually happening, but it does show that they are good friends, right? Let's move on. Miss Maudie, I said one evening, do you think Boo Radley's still alive? His name's Arthur, and he's alive, she said. She was walking slowly in her big oak chair. Do you smell my mimosa? It's like angel's breath this evening. Yes'm, how do you know? Know what, child? That, but Mr. Arthur's still alive. What a morbid question, but I suppose it's a morbid subject. I know he's alive, Jean Louise, because I haven't seen him carried out yet. Carried out means that his body wasn't removed from the house. You are going to read a little bit more of their dialogue about Boo Radley. But we can't have communion with you all. Apparently deciding that it was easier to define primitive baptistry than close communion, Miss Maudie said foot washers believe anything that's pleasure is a sin. So basically, giving you some more context, Scout asks, why doesn't Boo Radley want to come out? And the reason why is Maudie believes it's his religion, his religious beliefs, that his parents are very strict Christians, Baptists in particular, and you're going to find that they are very, very strict, that they don't do anything for pleasure, no fun, really not hanging out unless it's reading the Bible. And obviously as Christians ourselves, we aren't technically Baptist Christians, because we don't believe that God only wants us to just read the Bible, right? God has us do many things, and he does desire to give us he wants to give us the desires of our heart, right? When we delight in him. So keep that in mind as you read this, that Boo Radley comes from a very strict family. So you're going to read a little bit more. So this is something that Miss Maudie says, and it is highlighted for a reason, and I would love for you to kind of think about this. There are just some kind of men who are so busy worrying about the next world, they've never learned to live in this one, and you can look down the street and see the results. So basically, she's trying to say, not so much this is Boo Radley's fault, but his dad, Mr. Radley, that he's so set on his religious practices, that he's so worried about getting into heaven and being perfect and not doing anything that brings him pleasure, to the point of trapping his son in his house. It's like there's so much that there that shows it definitely isn't God's heart, right? It really isn't God's heart for us to not have a life here on earth. Not saying we have to have a balance, right? We have to have a balance of keeping priority of things that are of God, like serving others and loving others, but not to the point where we become Bible thumpers, right? When we're telling people and judging people based on their actions. So there is a fine balance, and I love that Miss Maudie says that. No, child, she says, this is a sad house. I remember Arthur Radley when he was a boy. He always spoke nicely to me, no matter what folks said. He did. Spoke as nicely as he knew how. You reckon he's crazy? Miss Maudie shook her head. If he's not, he should be by now. The things that happen to people we never really know. What happens in houses, behind closed doors, what secrets? And this is her finishing out. Gracious child, I was raveling a thread, wasn't even thinking about your father, but now that I am, I'll say this. Atticus Finch is the same in his house as he is on the public streets. How do you like some fresh pound cake to take home? I liked it very much. This is just a little bit about Atticus's character. Miss Maudie does share with Scout, reassuring her that her dad is the same person he is at home, whereas Nathan Radley, Boo's brother, it may not be. Even though he's just kind of leaves the house quietly, he may go back into the house and be a complete, just raging man who screams and yells at Boo. We don't know what kind of man he is behind closed doors. So this is about the plan. Jem mentions to Scout, we're going to give a note to Boo Radley. You are going to read a little bit of how them discussing about it. This is basically the kind of note they write, and it's actually really cute. All right then, what'd you write to him? Dill says, we're asking him real politely to come out sometimes and tell us what he does in there. We said we wouldn't hurt him and we'd buy him an ice cream. And then she goes on to say, you all have gone crazy. He'll kill us. This is shows so much childlike faith of them asking Boo to come out and play, and they would give him ice cream or come out and talk. It's an interesting plan. So this is the part where they actually go and deliver this note. And as they deliver, you're going to read this on your own, Atticus does come and he catches them. So you're going to read that dialogue, and it's really just between Jem and Atticus. And we finish out the chapter there, and you don't do any more reading. So just finish out that dialogue in chapter 5 and read and complete the questions for the worksheet. Okay? Thank you guys so much, and I will see you soon.